Hi everybody. In this example, I'm going to show you how to take your transactional data that you can see over here and actually turn it into a map. And as the countries get darker, that's more and more sales revenue that has come from those particular countries. It's pretty cool. I think the map is a great way of getting an overall kind of general idea of how you are doing worldwide in your sales efforts. So how do we set out to make something like this? So what we're going to do is go ahead and go back to my other data here, where we don't have it done yet, and kind of work it from there. So you have to figure we've got a lot of different transactions in here, and they're all coming from different countries, and there's a lot of transactions that have multiple countries. In other words, you might find France in a number of different transactions, China, and so forth. What we're going to have to do is consolidate or summarize that data, and then from that point we can then base our graph map off of that, or map graph. All right, so first thing we need to do is we need to make a pivot table out of this data here. All right, and to do that, what we'll do is we'll click somewhere in the data, like you see here. We're going to go back into Insert, click on the Pivot Table. All right, if you've never done a pivot table, don't worry, it's a pretty easy thing to do initially. And we're going to summarize this data. That's what it's showing here. And then we're going to put the data on the same sheet. So I'm going to say Existing Worksheet. And then I'm going to go and click about right here, and then hit OK. And then what I need to do is bring in the data that I need. The only thing I really need are the countries and the totals, summarized. So I'm going to bring in the country into the rows like that, and you can see how that pops in there. And then I'm bring in the total, and I'm bring that into the summary area, which is over here. And there we go. So there are the numbers. Now the problem is that the mapping software, or mapping graph, does not work off of pivot tables. So you have to end up taking the data that we have here and copying it into another area, and then using that as the basis. But for some reason, it doesn't like working with tables or pivot tables of data. So as you can see here, I've got all my different countries of data all nicely summarized. So we've got a number of Canadian transactions, a number of Cuban, number of German transactions that occurred in here. Here we consolidated all that and summarized it so that we have just the country listed ones and then the totals over here. So then what we're going to do is we're going to select this data. So I'm just going to take this and just kind of, oop, went a little too far there. I got away from me. I think what I'm going to do is I'll click onto here. I'll hold down my Control Shift right arrow key, and then I can just hit my down arrow, and then I'm going to do a Shift up arrow, because I don't really need the grand total. So I'll take that data, right click it, hit copy, go over to here, right click it, and just paste it right in there. And there are my numbers. I don't have to worry about formatting or anything like that. It's on its own. I'll hit my escape key to get rid of those little ants running around. So now that I've got that, summarized data in a non-pivot or table format, now I can base my map off of this. So all I have to do is just be somewhere in the data, go back over into Insert. I'll have over here my maps, and I just click on it here. And there's the map. Pretty amazing. Now I can take that and I can drag it up into my preordained area here. Something like that. Maybe pull this down just a little bit. But there it is. I don't really need to have a title. I can click onto that and get rid of the title. You could add in labels as far as the actual numbers go, but it's a little, I think it's a little fruitless because most of the countries are so small in size here that you can't even see the number because it's just so big in there. So we're not going to bother with that. What you can do though is while you're on the map, you can actually go up into the design area here and you can pick different kinds of formats. So you can go with this one here, which is the one we already have. We've got that, pretty interesting. We've got that and that, and we've got more in here. We're going to, well, actually, I think that's about it. So we just those four. So pretty neat. Then you can also go in there and pick the color overall. So you've got the colorful here, and then you can go with any of these other ones that are in here, greens and reds and so forth. So kind of interesting. And if your data changes over in here, it will automatically update. So if I were to go and say that wasn't Cuba, that was actually Aruba, I can type in, I'll bring up here a little bit so you can see it here. So Aruba is going to be somewhere in that area right there. So if I go and type in Aruba, bring it down there, enter it in. Kind of hard to see, but it's right there. You can see it come in there. So kind of interesting. I don't know how many of you might be interested in using this, but it does kind of give you a different perspective as to where your data comes from, especially if it's on a worldwide basis. So hopefully this can help you in what you're doing. I appreciate you having watched the video. Take care.